Hello, everybody. The will of God. Lots of people get really nervous about the will of God. And essentially, I've got three things to say about it. First, that we should chill out. Second, that God is a spiritual being, so I think the will of God is more spiritual than material. And second, that the will of God is much more expansive than restrictive. So, chill out. I don't think. Now, I haven't talked to him lately. He has not whispered in my ear about what he wants and doesn't. And I haven't gone to heaven and come back to be sure about all this stuff. But I think that the will of God is spiritual, and we should just relax about it and not worry about whether or not he wants us to turn right or left at the intersection. Not worry about what he wants us to learn this song or that song. And that's because of the second reason. God is a spiritual being, not a material being. I think God sees spiritual realities, not material realities. I'm not certain that God sees me hold this pen. He's a spiritual being. I don't even think God would see me throw this pen in anger at someone, because anger, born of selfishness and arrogance and impatience and disrespect, are not spiritual realities. Respect is a spiritual reality. Patience, compassion are spiritual realities. And if I get ready to throw the pen and I stop, he might see then some self-discipline. He might see respect for the other person, enough that I don't throw it at least. He might see empathy for the other person, that I'm getting out of my own selfishness and seeing their viewpoint maybe. Those things he would see, because those are spiritual realities. If you've been hearing any of these other videos, those spiritual realities I mentioned, you'll recognize those are those values of relationship, right? So many people say that the will of God is the way of God. Those are God's habits. Those are his behaviors. Those are the way she acts. The way of God. So how does God act? What are the behaviors of God? And if I were to give you time, you just turn off the video and you take out pencil and paper on your phone, you start typing in some notes. What does God do? What kinds of things does God do? And eventually, I think you would start writing down things. Well, God does loving things. God does respectful things. God does compassionate things. Any of these familiar to you? These are all those values of relationship. These are the things God does, and these are the things God sees, because God is a spiritual being. God does not see what does not exist. And in the spiritual, everlasting realm, these things don't exist. So, chill out. God is more interested in spiritual and expansive. When our kids were little, I used to take them grocery shopping. Give my wife a break. It was fun for me. Somebody reads the list. They get the items off the shelves. They have to reach up really high to put them in the grocery cart. And I told them, you can get anything you want. They could have gotten avocados. They could have gotten donuts. They could have gotten canned peaches or chips or those little yogurt cups. They could have gotten ice cream bars. What they settled on was those little cracker things that came in a plastic thing with crackers on one side and cheese spread on the other, and a little plastic paddle. You could scoop out the cheese spread and put it on the crackers. That became their habit. Every time we went to the grocery store, we get to have cheese and crackers. And they were excited about that, but they somehow didn't realize that their Father would have let them get anything. That whole store was open to their choices. But they had self-restricted themselves to just these cheese and crackers. They didn't realize that they could have gotten anything. Maybe that's all they wanted. They didn't want the ice cream bar. I get it. But I think they were self-restricting themselves. I think that's what we think what happens when we say, I want to do just your will, God. I'm turning my choices over to you. I want to do your will. Tell me what it is you want me to do. And we think we're restricting ourselves, and we aren't. In fact, when we are doing our choices, we are looking at life through a keyhole. And I can see through this keyhole these choices that are right here in front of me. This is what I can see. But God can see the choices out here. I can't see any of those. I don't know what choices those are, but he knows some of those choices would all be wonderful for us. Choices out here would be so rewarding and we would feel good once we choose them, but we can't see them because we're looking through a keyhole of our own perceptions, of our own self-restrictingness. That's all we can see because we're just people. But God, in his all-seeingness, says, have I got some choices for you? Just ask me, I'll tell you. So, in considering the will of God, don't worry about it. Relax. The will of God is more spiritual than physical. He's not interested in whether or not you eat the ice cream or not. He is interested in whether maybe you share the ice cream or not. So buy twice as much. And he has so many more choices for us than we can possibly see. Only goodness and joy and reward can come from opening ourselves up and letting God speak his will to us. Bye-bye.